Hello, thanks for joining us. My name is Sara MacLennan. I'm the marketing director at Liv Real Estate, and I'm joined by my partner, the broker owner of Liv Real Estate, Sheldon Johnston. We're excited to talk to you about what's happening in the Edmonton real estate market. Or should I say what's happening in the market around Edmonton?
Yeah, before we get into that, I just want to set the context because we don't have our kids to blame for a crappy Zoom call today because they're actually at school. So school got back in today for Edmonton and area, and so we're having the first day where we don't have interrupted Zoom calls. So that's great. What I will talk about is the market, and anyways, we'll get into it. If you have any questions, you can feel free to type them in as we go along. And if we don't answer them, we'll definitely get to them when we can.
Awesome. So what's the biggest trend we're seeing in the real estate market right now?
Well, as we've been talking to our colleagues across North America and even in Canada, we're seeing record sales in a lot of markets. Obviously not just ours, but all over North America. And we're seeing record website traffic to a lot of real estate websites and portals such as ours.
So in other markets, houses are literally selling in hours or days. There are multiple offers. It's very difficult for buyers in many other markets.
Yep.
So although in Edmonton we have seen more sales, it's not this frenzied type market that we're seeing in other places. It's a little more balanced.
Well, here's how Sara roped me into this. We've been reviewing the stats and collecting stats on the Edmonton market in a detailed way for over 15 years and reporting them on our blog, the edmontonrealestateblog.com. And, if you followed our blog, we don't get exceptionally excited. We just kind of report what the stats are. What was interesting as we were looking at these stats was there are some really telling insights as to what was going on, especially what was happening in the core versus the burbs and ex-burbs of the Edmonton area.
So sales were up in the Greater Edmonton Area in August about 20% over last year, about the highest level we've seen in August since the boom back in 2006. But what's really interesting is outside of Edmonton.
Yeah, that's what really caught my attention, because normally when we have a recessionary market in Alberta, acreages in the suburbs tend to get hit first. But this time, what we're seeing is sales near Edmonton were up 66% in August compared to last year, literally off the charts. So as Sarah's brought up this chart for sales outside Edmonton, you can it looks like I took a crayon and I just slipped or stumbled because I maybe was drinking or something.
That is what would happen if you did the charts.
If I did the charts, yes. But since you're doing the charts, this is legitimate. And anyways, I mean, that is obviously indicative of what's happening right now.
So what's causing this to happen, do you think?
Well, we talked a lot about what was going to happen when COVID hit. We blogged about it. We had a lot of discussions with our team with regards to different trends and factors. And we thought this might happen as people stayed home and got, sprawled on the kitchen tables and doing their work, and their kids were draped over them as they were trying to work and running through Zoom calls.
And dogs barking in the backyard.
And we kind of started to see early a bit of a trend for people looking at, more space and so forth. So now 6 months into this new reality of people working from home, people are looking for a new normal. Mm-hmm. Where do we want to live, and how do we want to live if we get shut down again? So they don't have to live as close to work anymore. More and more, we're talking to people that are telling us that their employers are saying, you don't have to come back to work. You don't have to come into the office. Mm-hmm. And this isn't necessarily a temporary thing for a lot of people.
So they can get a larger home, maybe a home office, a larger yard if they move a little further out.
Correct. What's really interesting, and I'm going to take a sidebar on this. I know this isn't part of what we originally decided to talk about, which is the way I sabotage you. But the city of Edmonton is currently right now working on its quote unquote, the city plan. They get bonus points for creativity of the name for sure. But the city plan is how planning and development is looking at how the city will grow from what it is now at 1.2 million to 2 million people over the next several years. And how that growth is anticipated to occur, according to the city of Edmonton, is more density in the inner city and within the city confines, more infill and more downtown development. If this trend bears out, that it continues, that would really kind of almost invalidate that plan. So it is kind of, there's a big risk here. There's a lot at stake. This trend is kind of either, it's pivotal or it's a blip. But if it is more than a blip, it's going to really have an impact on city planning for not just Edmonton, but a lot of other municipalities.
So this chart shows the number of sales per month in the cities and towns around Edmonton. And you can see it follows a pretty normal path every year until this year.
Yes.
So April and May were well below normal levels. And then things really took off in June and July. And then another jump in August. Why now? Well,
I think one of the answers is that after the first month or so COVID, buyers came back more quickly than sellers. What's really interesting to see is and to kind of sidetrack again, when COVID took place and the lockdowns happened, the sales dropped about 50%. But think about that. People were completely locked down and sales only dropped 50%. So we knew that there was going to be some pent up demand, and it's just that the buyers came back quicker than the sellers in terms of their comfort level of going out and having, the buyers were more comfortable going out and looking at properties versus sellers having people come through, basically.
So after a couple of months of quite a lot of demand and not that much to choose from, now we have new listings coming back on the market. So buyers are starting to find what they're looking for. They're
starting to find more of what they're looking for. And I think as that trend continues, the buyers are going to have more negotiating power as the balance between demand and inventory changes. Because what we saw for the last few months is that it was really a seller's market in certain price ranges.
Yes.
And that's the thing that you have to keep in mind. The market's like an ocean. At different depths, different things occur. In between 600 and 900,000, that was a different market to $1 million to $2 million. So,
and of course, buyers are taking advantage of the historically low interest rates. It's definitely motivating buyers, especially first-time buyers, to join the market.
So, based on that, what do you expect to happen in the next few months?
Well, things typically slow down at this time of year. And really the question is, let me just pull up my last chart. I don't have a producer here to help me with this stuff. So
yeah, and I'm useless because if I touch this, it's over. I'm like the tech bomb.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay. So before this year, we had higher than normal levels of inventory. So at the top of this chart here is the inventory levels for the last bunch of years. That caused prices to slowly decline.
Yeah, as part of that recessionary pressure, as we saw the inventory higher and the demand lower.
We still had decent demand, but
yes, demand was definitely decent for sure.
So this year, the inventory has been right in the normal range. So that has held prices generally quite steady, and in some areas, we're actually seeing some price appreciation. The thing that we don't really know what's going to happen is, so we have the mortgage deferrals.
Yep.
They started about 4 to 5 months ago.
Yep.
And
for 6 months.
Yeah, they're set to end soon. And we really don't know how many people needed those deferrals and are going to be in trouble when they end.
So on that point, though, I don't think it's going to be as bad as I initially thought, based on my conversations with a number of senior bankers and listening to some senior economists talk. There have been a number of people that took deferrals that didn't have to take them, but they took them anyways. So, but we will see some of those numbers of people, because of job layoffs and so forth, having to come onto the market to make a change, or they just want to.
Yes. So we could see the inventory start to climb. And then, of course, the other issue is the unemployment rate.
Yeah. To us, and don't get me wrong, I mean, my ability to predict what's going to happen is basically since 2007 been, my crystal ball is definitely cracked and cloudy. But the unemployment rate is a leading indicator for housing demand.
Mm-hmm.
And the unemployment rate in Alberta is extremely high, one of the highest in the country. And so that is going to have definitely an impact going forward in terms of demand and number of sales. So do I think we maybe have a bit of a COVID high or buzz going on for sales? That's a possibility. I mean, I'm myself personally, I don't see this as a sustainable level of sales, but some of the trends that we've seen that have just started to occur for the first time, like the outer Edmonton sales, that may continue as a hangover, so to speak.
And just to reiterate that when we see the unemployment rate rise, it's usually about 6 months before we see that impact on the real estate market. So we're just starting to get into that point where the employment rate might start to affect our market.
There is one last thing that we...
Are you throwing a surprise in here?
Again, yeah.
Okay.
What else? Why would you have me here if you're not going to get surprised? So the other thing that we sometimes, not sometimes, but that we kind of follow is migration. Pre-COVID, the Alberta government had their migration forecast, which a lot of school boards and stuff use to calculate their enrollments and so forth and so on. And I mean, when COVID hit and the economy in Alberta started to take a hit, a number of economists that we had talked to or listened to had said, these migration numbers are what's been posted, but that's not going to go forward. We did see the Alberta government revise their migration numbers. Migration has a direct correlation to housing demand from rentals and purchases. So that demand, we do expect those migration numbers to come down even further yet. So I think that will give us a stronger indication of a more balanced market anyways, in terms of the demand.
On the other hand, we normally slow down quite a bit at this time of year. We all get a few weeks break while people are focused on going back to school, and that has not happened. Traffic to our website is still 60% higher than it normally would be, and inquiries are literally pouring in. We're having a hard time keeping up with the number of people who want to see houses. Yeah,
for our brokerage, we saw sales up 48% from this August to last August, which is a significant bump. And so normally we definitely see the trend slowing down for sales and activity at this time of year. I've been in the business a long time, and generally I would always book my holidays around September because no one wanted to really talk to me because they were so busy with getting kids back to school.
Well, we're supposed to be in Italy right now, so people
are busy getting their kids back to school, but that demand has only tapered a little bit. So does that mean we're going to have a stronger than expected September? I believe so, just based on the numbers and the trends across North America, not just for Edmonton. So
I do expect that inventory is going to start to rise, maybe compared to last year as opposed to actually rising compared to last month. And we will move back into a buyer's market in the not too distant future.
In certain price ranges, I think it's already a buyer's market.
Oh, for sure.
But when you talk about the overall market, yes, it's right now a bit of a seller's market, especially in that $300,000 to $450,000 price range.
The good news is mortgage rates are not expected to increase. So buyers are going to have more to choose from, and they're also going to have more negotiating power in the coming months. I'd just like to re-say, for those that are joining us, if you have any questions, please feel free to type them in the comments and we will do our best to answer them. But otherwise, that pretty much sums up.
Yeah, that's basically it. I think, again, I don't normally do these monthly stats, but I think there's some really interesting trends developing here. And if they do become trends, then that's going to really shift things in terms of more than just the housing, but, basically, like I mentioned, the city plan. So We're as interested as you to figure out what's going to happen in the market. So stay tuned, and
thank you for watching.
come
Don't
back.
hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. As always, check out the best home search site in Edmonton at edmontonrealestate.pro. And we hope you love where you live.
Yeah, and also Sara does an amazing job with the stats and stats reporting every month, and also weekly at the edmontonrealestateblog.com. Take care and have a great day. Stay safe.